In episode 2 of the show, I shared that one of my favorite movies is The Color Purple. But it's not because of the amazing story and heart-wrenching performances of Whoopi Goldberg as Celie, or Danny Glover as Albert, or Oprah Winfrey as Sophia. It's one of my favorite movies because it's connected to one of my favorite childhood memories that I have with my grandmother, Thelma. This past year on May 17th, we lost my grandmother, and although the news wasn't totally unexpected, it was still painful. And with what would have been her 89th birthday this past week on October 23rd, I am even more reminded of how precious and special those memories I have with her truly are. My grandmother's mobility was limited, so the majority of our time spent together was spent indoors watching TV and movies on the VCR. And what became almost a daily ritual of ours was watching two of her favorite movies, What's Love Got to Do with It, and of course, The Color Purple. So even today, whenever I catch either one of those films playing on TV, I am instantly reminded of those times spent with my grandmother. A little over a month before my grandmother passed, I started thinking about her funeral service. In particular, I started wondering if I would speak at her service. Being her granddaughter, I knew the possibility of me speaking in some capacity was there, but I wasn't certain. And more so, I was thinking about if I should write a speech, something I had never done before. And on top of that, I have never been a fan of public speaking, so the mere thought of speaking in front of any room full of people terrified me. But I knew I had some time to decide, and I really wanted to try and stay in the present moment of still having her here with me. But in the back of my mind, I wondered to myself, when the time came, would I be able to do it? Would I be able to write a speech? Would I be able to overcome my fear of public speaking and deliver a speech about one of the most important people in my life? Or would I allow my fear of failure to stop me? Hi everyone, welcome to the F.A.I.L.Podcast, where I share personal stories of how I have learned to not only accept and embrace my life fails, but also how I have grown because of them. I'm your host, Melody, and I am so happy you are here. I hope you are doing well as we are winding down the rest of the year. And let me ask you something. If you had to describe your year of 2025 so far in one word, what would it be? Mine would be emotional. Emotional because I've had my moments of extreme happiness and contentment, but I've also been on the opposite side with feeling really anxious and sad, especially dealing with the loss of my grandmother. Once me and my family received the news about my grandmother's passing and final arrangements were getting finalized, I knew the time had come for me to decide if I would speak at her service. I had exactly 1 week to write my speech, a speech that needed to sum up almost 44 years of love and memories with my grandmother. And let me tell you, that week was an emotional roller coaster for me. Not only was I dealing with feelings of sadness and grief, I also battled with feelings of doubt and insecurity and fear if I could really write and deliver a speech. I would start writing something, but then I would get stuck and frustrated, so I would stop and say, forget it. But then the next day I would try again, but then I would stop again because the words weren't coming out just right to me. And then in the midst of this, my uncle asked me if I would read the obituary. Of course, I said yes and thought maybe this was my way out of actually writing my own speech. But as the days went by, that didn't feel right to me either. So then I started back working on my speech. And basically, I did this back and forth with myself the entire week leading up to her funeral. But then something really magical happened at 3 a.m. the Saturday morning of my grandmother's service. I woke up. And I mean that literally and figuratively. I woke up because I had to use the bathroom, But when I tried to go back to sleep, I couldn't. Thoughts about my unfinished speech were racing through my mind. But unlike before, I could really envision how to piece together my speech. It was crazy, but I could literally see the story I had been trying to write all week really come to life. It felt like I had finally woke up and I could really see it. So as soon as daybreak hit, I jumped up, grabbed my pen and paper, and I sat down at that hotel room desk and was finally able to write my speech out from start to finish. I couldn't believe it. I had my speech and I knew it conveyed everything I had been feeling and wanted to say. And I was relieved, but I still wasn't sure if I would have the courage to get up and read it. But guess what? When the time came, I did in fact push past my fear, stood up, and delivered my speech. And yes, I was nervous, my hands were sweaty, and it wasn't perfect, but I did it. By the grace of God, I did it. And I was so proud of myself afterwards. But I also felt emotions that surprised me. I felt confident and energized and fearless. And although I was mourning this great loss, I felt very much alive and capable of doing the things that once scared me. I realized I do have something to say and stories to share. Out of this painful loss of losing my grandmother and facing my fear of public speaking, I had found my purpose, my voice, and my why. And it gave me what I needed to finally move ahead with creating this podcast. A podcast I had put off creating for over a year because of my fear of failure. And so here we are, celebrating the end of the first official season of the F.A.I.L. Podcast. And I am so thankful. I'm thankful to God for placing this in my heart and giving me the ability to do it. I'm thankful for you, my listeners, for tuning in and taking the time to listen to the show. And I'm thankful for my life experiences, whether they were fails or not, that are a part of my journey. And I'm even more thankful I can share my journey and hopefully inspire you too. And I'm not done. The journey continues. Lord's willing, I will be back in 2026 with all new episodes. But in the meantime, please continue to check out all of my previous episodes and share with people you know. And please follow, like, and comment down below on this week's episode. And I do hope you enjoy the holiday season with your loved ones. Once again, a huge thank you for listening to the F.A.I.L. Podcast. I'm your host, Melody, and I will catch up with you next year.